I've covered storms for probably 30 years now, and we have never seen a hybrid storm make a turn onshore, and that is why Sandy's extremes are so shocking.
On October 29th at approximately 8 p.m., Hurricane Sandy made landfall to the East Coast. This Category 2 storm, with winds up to 80 miles per hour, would ravage the East Coast and destroy thousands of homes and cause billions of dollars in damage. Superstorm Sandy, which it would later be nicknamed, will strike the coast at high tide with the full moon, increasing the damage that will be ensued, making it the worst hurricane to hit the Jersey Shore since Hurricane Donna in 1960.
What made this hurricane so powerful? It's been called the perfect storm, or superstorm. To make it required unique elements, a trifecta of destruction. It was a hurricane wrapped up in a giant nor'easter, pumped up by the jet stream. A record low barometric pressure meant that somewhere this storm was going to open up and explode when it made landfall. Then add a sharp left turn that sent it veering directly toward the coast with giant swells of water. And if all those things weren't enough, even the moon was on Sandy's side, with an astronomical high tide delivering higher water levels than normal. But what there will be no debate about is that when it comes to Sandy, we'll be dealing with the aftermath for the foreseeable future.
Once the surge peaks, at high tide, waves at the shore could grow to 20 feet, out at sea, up to 40 feet.
You gotta take a look at this. All the winds have picked up, and this is what happens. Debris like pieces of the boardwalk have come for 3 blocks. That's the ocean back there. Huge waves crashing up and over. Do you see that one? Pushing ocean water. The storm is on top of us right now.
And it's only going to get worse during the next high tide.
Throughout the storm, Governor Chris Christie was constantly on the radio and television updating his constituents on whatever information he could obtain, while even some local law officials, such as Mayor LaCicero of Lavallette, stayed put throughout the storm in their local towns.
For power outages, our latest numbers are 348,500 without power. Unfortunately, we expect that to get significantly higher.
On October 27, 2012, Governor Chris Christie declared New Jersey to be in a state of emergency. Before the storm hit, he was on the news warning people to leave and evacuate their homes. He said in his statement prior to the storm, when he declared state of emergency, "I am urging all New Jerseyans to take every possible and reasonable precaution to ready themselves for the storm's potential impact."
Go straight to New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who is updating us on that state's preparations for Hurricane Sandy.
During the storm, residents who were lucky enough to have power were able to see him speaking on almost every network. He acted as someone the state could look to for guidance. The governor was harsh at his points, but it was only because he was looking out for the safety of his constituents. At a press conference during the storm, he even criticized the mayor of Atlantic City,
Where, for whatever reason, Mayor Langford urged people to stay in shelters in the city. Despite my admonition to evacuate, he gave them comfort, for some reason, to stay.
The governor could not have prepared his people better. A few days after Superstorm Sandy hit, the governor met with President Obama. During this time, it was clear that he was able to put his political beliefs aside as he worked alongside the Democratic president.
I've been in touch with President Obama this afternoon. The president called me at about 2:15 this afternoon. It was just the two of us on the phone. We had a good conversation. The president wanted to know if we had everything that we needed to be able to respond to the storm from a federal perspective. I told him at this point we did. He wanted to check on the level of cooperation with FEMA. I said it was excellent, because it is. And he told me that if at any point over the next 48 hours I was not getting something from the federal government, that I should call him directly at the White House, and that he was going to be there, and that I should just not worry about dealing with anybody else, call him.
Christie was quoted saying that he usually disagrees with President Obama's political beliefs 95% of the time. Despite this, him and Obama worked together fantastically through the crisis. Christie wanted his state to return to normalcy as soon as possible, and he was doing everything in his power to make it possible.
Our challenge now is to get back to normalcy.
What I can promise you is that the federal government will be working as closely as possible with the state and local officials, and we will not quit until this is done.
Before the storm even hit, FEMA began to deploy incident management assistance teams all over the East Coast. Obama, FEMA, and the Coast Guard all worked together in tracking the storm and deciding what to do about positioning emergency relief centers throughout the East Coast. On Friday, October 26, FEMA deployed 7,700 FEMA personnel to various emergency operation centers to help out with Hurricane Sandy victims. Usually in the first 10 days, there is no need for bids as FEMA will cover all of your costs. However, because the damage of Hurricane Sandy at the Jersey Shore was so immense, the reimbursement period was extended to 13 days. Even though FEMA offered help, food, and emergency shelters, many criticized its response to the storm. Based on a house's location on the flood map, FEMA mandated that all houses be elevated from between 5 to 15 feet. In addition, FEMA will only be covering and reimbursing damages to homes that were a family's primary residence. Currently, 2,000 plus FEMA housing inspectors are all over the East Coast assessing over 170,000 homes.
FEMA's been great. Cindy Morrow has been in town almost every day helping us with the program, as well as Jim Binner, who works with her. Really fantastic. They've been on the ground trying to help us get through it.
Overall, many held higher expectations for the help they would receive from FEMA and were therefore let down and angry. Before the storm, the National Guard went from house to house all over the Jersey Shore, including LBI, and asked people to leave their homes. The National Guard positioned more than 61,000 National Guard personnel along the eastern seaboard. After the hurricane hit, National Guard members went in emergency boats all over the shore to try and rescue any victims that chose to stay in their homes. When they checked the house to see if it was clear, they put a strip of red tape on the door signaling that it was evacuated. The National Guard worked alongside with FEMA and the Coast Guard in ensuring that the victims received housing, food, and were safe. They transported hundreds of people to emergency shelters and did everything in their power to make sure that people were safe. Lastly, they blocked people from coming down the shore until they saved everyone and that they could make sure that conditions were safe to come down. National Guard personnel went along the beaches and hunted down any looters and trespassers. In contrast to FEMA's efforts, many were pleased by the help of the National Guard.
In a week's time, Christie held 11 news conferences, visited 10 towns, and gave at least 7 nationally televised interviews. On the Tuesday following the storm, Christie conducted 6 live conferences in the early morning, met with cabinet officials at the State Police Regional Operations and Intelligence Center, held a news conference, and went on a 4-hour-long helicopter tour of the damage. These press conferences were essential in order to show the New Jerseyans that he had everything under control. On November 2nd, 3 days after the storm, Christie implemented a gas rationing system. He ordered odd-even fuel sales in order to limit the amount of people getting gas since they were going through a statewide gas shortage. When we met with the mayor of Lavallette, Mayor LaCicero, he talked about how ecstatic he was with the job Christie had done. The mayor said how he has lifted the spirits of people and fought hard for our state and did a terrific job. In addition to that, he also said how he can't imagine anyone beating Christie in this upcoming election. In this upcoming election, Christie uses Restoring the Shore as one of his main platforms.
It's in our blood, our DNA. It's who we are, we're here to stay. 'Cause we're stronger than the storm.
The Jersey Shore is open.
The word is spreading because we're stronger than the storm.
You bet we are.
Christie never lost his fight for the state of New Jersey. At this year's Governor's Ball, he talked about how restoring the shore had become his passion after Sandy. It was evident how passionate he felt about this when Congress failed to pass a federal aid bill. He held a press conference the following
31
day.
days for Andrew victims, 17 days for victims of Gustav and Ike, 10 days for victims of Katrina, for the victims of Sandy in New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. It's been 66 days, and the wait continues. There's only one group to blame for the continued suffering of these innocent victims: the House majority and their Speaker, John Boehner. This is not a Republican or Democratic issue. National disasters happen in red states and blue states.
While the Senate immediately passed the Hurricane Sandy relief bill, the House of Representatives adjourned before passing the bill. This caused an uproar in the House of Representatives as the Democratic representatives were furious.
All of us in this Congress that could not be in the same position. I live on a coastal state, but whether you live in the Midwest or the far West, whether you live in the South or the East or the North or the West, you could be, and your citizens could be, and your neighbors could be confronted by a natural disaster, or for that matter, a man-made disaster. And our fellow citizens would expect us to respond, as the United States Senate has responded. It was my belief, and assurance was given to me, not 100%, and the gentleman who gave it to me did not make this decision. But I am deeply disappointed, Mr. Speaker, and the people who have been damaged by Sandy, including Governor Christie, a Republican, and Governor Cuomo, a Democrat, should be deeply disappointed and, yes, angry that this Congress would adjourn without addressing the pain of our fellow citizens.
Many Republicans did not want to pass the bill, as they thought it was too much money, and with the current debt and deficit, the United States could not afford to spend any more money. The H.R. 31 Hurricane Sandy relief bill was finally passed after many representatives and Chris Christie spoke before the House, expressing how imperative it was to pass the bill. Finally, it was passed on April 4, 2013, and was enacted to temporarily increase the borrowing authority of the Federal Emergency Management Agency for carrying out the National Flood Insurance Program. It stated that Section 1309A of the National Flood Insurance Act of 1968 is amended by striking $20 million and inserting $30 million. Even with receiving bills and grants, many towns and states are still working together to receive more money from the federal government.
And I saw what thousands of Americans saw over Memorial Day weekend. You are stronger than the storm. After all you've dealt with, after all you've been through, the Jersey Shore is back and it is open for business, and they want all Americans to know that they're ready to welcome you.
In the end, Christie did everything he could to help New Jersey's shores. Obama said to him, after all you've dealt with, after all you've been through, the Jersey Shore is back and is open for business, which summarizes perfectly the governor's impact.
The dunes that were present in certain towns minimized the amount of damage. Therefore, towns like Seaside Heights that had a boardwalk and no dunes suffered much more damage than towns like Lavallette, where dunes were a great presence on the beach.
Seaside Heights, New Jersey, where the destruction is just biblical, the damage is devastating.
Now the dunes are gone because of the storm. In order to replace the dunes and protect the beaches from upcoming storms, the federal government is willing to provide money if all beachfront property owners sign easements. These easements will give the once privately owned property in some cases to the government, allowing them to construct the dunes. Since the beaches span many municipalities, and some are privately owned, it could take a while until a plan is approved and put into action. While towns wait for the dune project to begin, they have been repairing other damage that was caused by the storm. The Lavallette Boardwalk was obliterated by Superstorm Sandy, but has since been rebuilt. The project cost a total of $320,000, which the town paid for up front, but will hopefully later be reimbursed by FEMA. All $320,000 that was used to repair the Lavallette Boardwalk was won through a local program called Buy a Board. Through this program, the residents of Lavallette were given the opportunity to buy a board and have their name engraved on it. These boards were then used to construct the new boardwalk, which was completed 2 weeks before Memorial Day weekend. Although many towns have repaired all publicly owned buildings and property that suffered from the storm, many residential homes are still in disarray. With astronomical flood insurance prices because of the new FEMA flood maps, many people are being forced to elevate their homes in order to live there. Many homes still in an unlivable state, many people do not believe that the Jersey Shore's rental market and economies will return for the summer of 2013. Without the summer revenue that comes from activities and beach badge sales, some towns could be facing a deficit in the coming months. As federal, state, and local governments all continue to work together, the Jersey Shore will return back to the way it was before the hurricane.
Times got tough, we kept moving on. Now we got it done and we're going strong. 'Cause we're stronger than the storm.
Jersey Shore is open.
Because we're stronger than the storm.